The Buffalo Bills currently sit 21st in red zone percentage and 28th in Football Outsiders red zone DVOA. So what's the issue? This is a question that many fans have been asking for a better portion of the season. But since the Week 7 bye, the Bills' red zone issues have grown worse. Over the last 3 games, the Bills have registered only 4 completions out of 15 passing attempts for 26 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Allen has been costing the Bills in this critical area of the field. He has as many completions to the other team as he does his own. His 4 interceptions in the red area, 3 of which took place in the fourth quarter and 1 in overtime, are tarnishing his reputation as one of the most dynamic weapons in the league. And fans are looking for answers. The questions and answers need to start with the offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, because he is the curator of this offense. After studying all 34 red zone plays from the last 3 games, I've come to the conclusion that Buffalo's offense simply doesn't have an identity. They don't have 2 to 3 passing concepts that they can lean on to keep the offense moving closer to the goal line. In those gotta have it moments, Allen is purely operating a progression read offense. So he's taught to simply go through his progressions and take what the defense is giving him. If there isn't anything there, create outside of script. And far too often, Allen is running out of options and hitting a dead end. Over the last 3 games, the only consistent concept that I charted were plays to running backs, with rail and option routes. It's Dorsey's attempt to get his new offensive toys, James Cook and Nyheim Hines, involved. But the overall success just isn't there. On this play against the Packers, Dorsey dialed up a follow concept. The route concept usually has a crossing route by an outside receiver with another crossing route following it. The initial crosser generally clears out the zone and opens it up for the route following behind. But on this play, you can see the routes between Davis and Cook are spaced horribly. Either Davis ran the wrong route or the design is just awful. Either way, the Texas route by Cook isn't open. Allen peeks to the right side of the field, but none of the routes are open, so he goes into scramble mode. With the Bills up 17 in the fourth quarter, Allen should just throw it away. Instead, he tries throwing it away into the dirt back over the middle of the field, and it's intercepted by Jair Alexander. Allen should have simply thrown it out of the back of the end zone. Against the Vikings, the Bills run a variation of the follow concept, and for some reason, Allen completely misses. As I said, generally McKenzie is a primary receiver, but once again, the routes are spaced horribly. But this time, the coverage busted. Davis is wide open. But Allen double clutches and fires it to the end zone and misses completely. I can't even tell you who the pass was intended for. The familiarity with Daboll's passing concepts over the years is gone. It's a different offense, and Allen is struggling, especially in the red area. Defenses are disguising coverages better in this condensed area of the field. The coverages are changing the pre to post snap picture, forcing Allen to diagnose late into a play. And with the random concepts being called, he's put the ball in harm's way. At times, Allen is not even seeing defenders. Like on this play against the Jets, the Bills have a bootleg pass called, so Allen expects safety Jordan Whitehead to fill as they show the wide zone run. As Allen boots out and the defensive end releases tight end Dawson Knox, Allen wasn't expecting Whitehead to be in the picture. But Whitehead did a great job of recovering and getting into his area in the flats. Allen didn't even see him. The final interception from the Vikings game was a mix of bad decision making, not seeing the coverage well, and truly knowing the totality of the passing concept. The Vikings primarily played man coverage or man match coverage on the final drive of overtime, which is why Allen took off for 38 yards on 2 plays. But on the final play, the Vikings played zone coverage. The Vikings have quarters coverage called, and it's pretty obvious in my opinion. The Bills dial up double posts. The idea is to have tight end Quentin Morris run the post and take Harrison Smith with him to open up the backside post by Gabriel Davis. And that's exactly what happens. But corner Patrick Peterson doesn't have a route holding him accountable to his quarter of the field. The third route to that side is by Devin Singletary, who is chip releasing. So he's nowhere near a threat to Peterson's deep quarter of the field. This allows the veteran corner to attach to Davis's route, which was needed because Smith rightfully drove on Morris to carry him to his teammate Cam Bynum. It's a bang-bang play, and Josh should trust his eyes. He saw the coverage correctly, and generally this can work, But knowing the coverage, the route combination, and more importantly, the situation, Allen shouldn't have thrown it. He said after the game that he was trying to fit it in there, but it was a bad decision and bad ball. It was 2nd and 10. Allen didn't need to try and thread the needle. He should have taken off, checked it down, or thrown it away. Instead, the gunslinger let it rip, and Peterson closed the game out for the Vikings. These sort of zone coverages and combinations that Dorsey are calling are leading Allen down a dead-end road, and he's making bad decisions. When you analyze the coverage tendencies Allen is seeing in 2022, several things stand out. Against zone coverage, his touchdown percentage is around the same, but his interception rate has increased compared to the prior 2 years. But what is so surprising is that Allen hasn't been pressured all that much in the red area. Allen has only been under pressure 21.1% of his dropbacks in this area of the field. That's over 50% less than the prior 2 years. Against man coverage, Allen's touchdown percentage is slightly up, but his interception rate is up as well. Allen's pressure rate is also 20% less than last season. But over the last 3 games, Allen's interception percentage is double his touchdown percentage. What this tells me is that the scouting and coaching staff haven't consistently pinned down defensive tendencies in the red area, so they aren't able to exploit the coverages with plays that are advantageous to the offense. Allen isn't under as much pressure from the pass rush as prior years, but I think a lot of that has to do with how quickly he is getting the ball out. But when teams know you're trying to get the ball out quickly, they are taught to get their hands up, and that strategy has led to 14 batted passes so far in 2022, second most in the league. And a good chunk of those are coming in the red zone. And sometimes Allen just throws too low of a ball. Either way, it has led to several passes never even making it to the target. Over the first 6 games, Allen executed one-step drops 39% of the time. The quick passes out of these one-step drops kept the pressure rate low at 18.2%. However, in the last 3 games, one-step drop usage has been reduced to a usage of 21%. But Allen has been pressured 41.2% of the time in those games. The quick game has been reduced and the ball isn't getting out quickly because there aren't many options for Allen, so it's creating more pressure on the franchise quarterback. The scouting and coaching staff are having trouble putting together strong game plans in the red zone, which is leading to shoddy execution on the field by Allen and many others. Allen is pressing when he doesn't really need to, and as a result, is making bad decisions. That's on him. That's why the Bills' offense has the worst passing EPA in the NFL over the last 3 games. These issues start at the top and trickle down. The scouting, scheme, and play designs are controlled by Dorsey. He carries the brunt of the blame, not just the quarterback. Where is the creativity? Where are the layups for Allen? We just aren't seeing them. Even when Dorsey uses motion in the red zone, generally used to identify coverages pre-snap and confuse defenders post-snap, Allen isn't having success. Over the last 3 games, Dorsey has used motion 29% of his red zone passes. Those 5 plays consisted of 2 interceptions, 2 incompletions, and 1 touchdown for Allen. It's been frustrating to watch. But that frustration carries over to the running game as well. The Bills' red zone rushing DVOA currently sits at 26th, according to Football Outsiders. Over the last 3 games where they have been winning handily, the Bills have rushed 17 times for a whopping 35 yards and 4 touchdowns in the red zone. These stats do not count kneel downs or scrambles. 35 yards is ranked 14th overall. The 4 touchdowns, 2 of which came in Week 10, are ranked 2nd over the last 3 games. Their 2.1 yards per attempt is ranked 24th, and expected points added per attempt is also average, ranking 14th. The Bills' offensive line is an athletic unit, but they aren't people movers. It's why they like to run a lot of zone and pin and pull concepts, plays that use athleticism, angles, and speed to create leverage. So downhill running has been difficult to come by. Their success in the run game have come on plays that attack the edges, like pitches and jet sweeps. Get the speed guys like Hines, Cook, and McKenzie on the perimeter. Look at how the action across the formation forced the Packers' zone coverage, quarters coverage I may add, to get outflanked. It forced one of the 2 high safeties to become the force player from depth, but McKenzie is able to win that matchup. How about this creative design? Dorsey essentially options the end man on the line of scrimmage with a toss play and power shovel play in one. The defensive end crashes, so Cook races to the pylon but steps out of bounds at the 1-yard line. But on the next play, Motor scores on this pin and pull run. Another perimeter play with several pullers out in front of the running back. Dorsey made the offensive formation look like Allen may run the QB pin and pull to the offense's left. So the defense overloaded that side. This gave the Bills a numbers and spatial advantage to the right side of the formation. Boom, touchdown Bills. When things are congested inside, plays like this duo run are designed to attack the edge. They also pair well with how defenses are defending the Bills' passing game. Several of their zone runs, whether they are outside, mid-zone, or inside zone, have yielded minimal gains. They are just not getting the movement horizontally or vertically for their backs to cut into. Their lead back up to this point has been Devin Singletary. He's averaging 4.3 yards per attempt, but is minus 26 rushing yards over expected, according to Next Gen Stats. That's ranked 41st among 49 running backs with at least 55 carries. This just means that he's performing 26 yards worse than the average back in similar situations. He has his moments, and those moments usually occur with pullers, but at his very best, he's an above-average back that is reliant on his offensive line. An offensive line that currently ranks 22nd in adjusted line yards, and a unit that has yet to find their groove or identity. It's been pretty obvious that Dorsey and his staff are limiting how often they call designed runs with Allen, and unfortunately, that has hampered the Bills' rushing offense in the red zone. Not using him in that manner has capped their effectiveness in the most important area of the field. And I get it. Save it for the playoffs, right? But it's pretty clear that what they have in the toolbox right now hasn't worked. And aside from some inconsistencies up front and limitations to their feature back to this point, Devin Singletary, my main issues are the focus and predictability of the offense in the red zone. There have been far too many instances where the Bills have botched assignments, were careless with the ball, or just looked out of sorts. Defenses have also picked up on some tendencies. It's like they know what is coming, regardless of the concept. They are picking up on formations and are diagnosing the upcoming play. This has led to several gains of minimal value, and even tackles for loss. Most of these have come on zone read option type plays, like on this RPO play from the Dolphins game. The Bills bring McKenzie across the formation to run a slide route, which would really put the end man on the line of scrimmage in a bind. But as Allen pulls the mesh, McKenzie runs right into the defensive tackle. So instead of Allen having the option to run or pass along the perimeter, he has to eat it. That's all happening with the ball at the 1-yard line. Allen has also made some incorrect reads and decisions because he trusts himself more than others. But defenses aren't being challenged pre or post snap, so they are able to stay home and neutralize Allen. Watch how the Dolphins check into the perfect call to defend this zone read play. On the snap, Jalen Phillips slants inside to take away the running back if Allen were to give it. And the safety, Brandon Jones, takes Allen if he was to keep it. They knew what was coming. Just watch the interaction between Allen and Jones after the play. Here's another predictable play, this time from the Chiefs game. Frank Clark knows the duo run call is coming, given the formation. Then, to really blow the play up, he times the snap ritual of Bates flashing his hand to Morse, letting him know that Allen is ready for the snap. And as the ball is snapped, Clark slants inside and blows the play up. Yes, duo has been successful, and it's been successful from the very same formation, but you have to dress it up and present it in different ways, like the Bills did here. You can't just sit back and let defenses tee off. Getting better in the red zone starts with the coordinator. Dorsey and the entire staff need to do a better job of scouting opponents and curating an advantageous set of plays for Allen. Take some of the burden off of the quarterback with some creativity in the passing and running game. Get him some easy looks, some layups, where he isn't having to work through his progressions on every play. Stop leading him to dead ends where he has to become Superman outside of script in a condensed area of the field. While he may account for a majority of the offense, give him some plays off from time to time. Use some pre-snap motion, some eye candy, and plays that stretch the defense horizontally with some of the speed elements available. This will force defensive backs to come up and make tackles, and at times open up some interior lanes. Dorsey's offense isn't terrible. It just needs to be refined. It needs more clarity and focus. It needs an identity. The lack of said identity has caused the offense to struggle in the most important area of the field. That's why the Bills have the second biggest gap between offensive DVOA and red zone DVOA. But the time is now. The Bills are in an arms race in the AFC and in their own division. Dorsey was the weakest link coming into the season, the unknown. It's time for him to get Allen and the offense on track and the ball in the end zone.